Welcome to Social Work Sunday Tea. I am Shakia Houston. It's a great day to be alive and well. It is February 12th, 2023. Listen, I want you guys to like, subscribe, share on your social media platforms. It's going to be a great discussion. It's a great day. Listen, we're above ground. We breathing. We smelling good. We feeling good. I don't know where you are in virtual social media land, but I'm glad that you tune in to this podcast, Social Work Sunday Tea. So I have a very special guest. If you'd like to introduce yourself, it's really appreciated. And
Uh,
welcome her to Social Work Sunday Tea.
All right. Thank you for having me. My name is Latasha Toney. I am from Birmingham, Alabama. I'm a licensed clinical social worker by well, that's my degrees in social work. I'm licensed as a clinical social worker, but I work as a mental health therapist, an adjunct instructor, and I'm also a podcaster. I'm just really passionate about the intersection of mental health and Christian faith. So I like that we have that same passion and desire. So I
Yeah.
am just so grateful to be here.
Yes, and thank you so much. I was just recently on your podcast and it
Yes,
was amazing. You
it
talked about
was.
self-love and make sure
Mhm.
everybody tune in. Um make sure that you listen to the podcast. We did a good job. Like it was real dope. And I was
It
like,
was.
okay, don't go over. And I was just like, you know, but it was a great thing. We talked about self-love and yeah, I think it was dope. It was dope. So of course she had to come on my podcast and we can, rock out and, do what we do.
Right.
Absolutely. So everybody make sure you like, subscribe, make sure you share. Today we're talking about forgiveness. Uh, it's a big thing to forgive and um, it's just so many avenues that we can go, through when we're talking about forgiveness. So Latasha, what is your definition of forgiveness?
Forgiveness is letting go of your right to punish someone.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when it comes to forgiveness. And for me, I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is a part of my faith as a
Yeah.
Christian.
Yeah.
First
Yeah.
off, God forgave me by
So
sending his son, Jesus Christ.
yeah.
So if he
Yeah.
was able to forgive me through him,
Mm-hmm.
who am I not to do the same thing for other people?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think about this certain scripture in the Bible. I don't know the actual text of it, but it was basically there was this man that had this great debt and he could not pay this debt. And so he went to the person who was in charge and said, hey, I can't pay this debt. And he was forgiven.
Yeah.
But this same man went back. Someone owed him a much smaller debt. He refused to forgive that person.
Yeah.
And so when his master found out what he did, he ended up being thrown, into prison for that unforgiveness.
Yeah.
So it's the same concept to me when it comes to forgiveness. Is it an easy thing to do? No.
Listen.
No, no. And like I was reading a scripture too about, I think it was Peter. He asked Jesus, how many times do I forgive
Yeah.
someone when they sin against me? And I think he said seven at first. And
Yeah.
Jesus told him 70 times seven, which is 490. And I was like, wow, have I forgiven somebody 490 times? Has somebody even offended me that many times? And
Yeah.
I had this one person in mind. I was like, well, I wonder how many times we've had falling outs in our life. And it
Yeah.
hasn't been 490. So I, I, and
Yeah.
I haven't wanted to forgive that person.
Mhm.
It's challenging.
Yeah, definitely. And why do you think is such of a challenge to forgive people? Because that's a thing, because it's like, okay, okay, we say we forgive. We be like, do I really? Like, is that really forgiveness? Especially if you still hold it like a grudge,
Hmm.
But like, why is it like, why is it so hard? It's like a icky feeling, So I don't know. What are your thoughts on why is it so hard?
I think sometimes we can expect a lot from people,
Hmm. Yeah,
and when people fail to meet our expectations, we just don't know. We have a hard time. And I think that's the issue right there. We have unrealistic expectations for people. We expect perfection from
yeah,
others. We
yeah,
expect perfection from other people, but we expect others to understand us.
yeah,
If that
yeah.
makes any sense. Like
No, it
we
does.
want to, say, oh, you should be this way. But if we make a mistake, like, oh, you should just understand where I'm coming from. But we don't have that same grace towards
Right.
others. And I think sometimes, and we forget, if we're people of faith, Christian faith, we forget what was done for us,
Yeah,
and we take it on ourselves.
yeah,
Like we shouldn't have to put up with certain things, which, at some point people do have to be held accountable for
yeah,
their actions.
yeah,
And I would say too, like when it comes to forgiveness, we sometimes we just really can't be honest about what we feel. If somebody hurts us, it's just better to have a grudge versus having a real conversation about what has happened and
yeah,
moved on. I think a lot of people don't want to have those hard conversations with people.
yeah.
So I could just, have this grudge against you, go on with my life, and I don't have to address it.
Right. Because it's easier if you hold a grudge other
Hmm.
than, making a conscious decision if I want to forgive or not. Right. So I hold
Right.
on to this grudge for 20, 30 years
Hmm.
and don't think twice about it. But it's kind of
Right.
like it festers too, and when
Hmm.
you see them or you hear their name or you're reminded of them, especially like for an ex, right?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
kind of like, or just anybody, you kind of like, you hold on to that, that pain, and you
Hmm.
let it harvest, and you'll let that sit forever until
Hmm.
you're ready and mature enough to be like, okay, why am I still holding on to this?
Right.
Not saying that we supposed to, forget, but even though, Jesus, he forgot what we did, even when we asked
Right.
for forgiveness. So it's like, why? Because we're human, right? We're
Right.
not perfect, and we're
Hmm.
trying to strive to be like Jesus and forgive. But at the same time, we're human, we're flesh. This carnal flesh sometimes get a hold of us, and also get the best of us when when somebody has done us wrong. And it's
Right.
harder to forgive, and I think for me, for forgiveness is pretty much a deliberate decision on, to release like any feelings of resentment,
Hmm.
any feelings of revenge towards the person that done something to me. So regardless, even if they don't deserve it, right?
Hmm.
And sometimes, some people you be like, now they know they don't deserve this,
Right.
given because of the actions, because some people continue to do what they do and they keep saying
Hmm.
I'm sorry, but you're not really, if it's not a change in your behavior, then it's really not, you're not really not sorry.
That's
But
true.
at the other end of that, because you know we're believers, we try to strive to forgive people and also extend grace, like you said. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of time extending grace, to people that we feel as though everybody's worthy of it, but like I said before, because of their action, it makes them like, ugh. But you know what? That's between them and God. I did my part, of forgiving, and I and yeah, it's a whole thing, and I
It
think
is.
people really truly understand forgiveness, then it wouldn't be so hard. I don't
I,
know.
I agree. If people would look at themselves, how much they fall short,
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
think it would be easier for them to to be forgiving. I just think about this one friendship that I had. This person, if I would do something wrong, she would let me know.
Yeah.
But if I would do, well, if she would do stuff that I think was not wrong, she would tell me, "Oh, you're being so critical." And so she was always able to look at what I was doing that was wrong, but she was never able to look at herself. And
Yeah.
she was just really, putting herself down, but it wasn't an honest look at this is something I really need to change.
Yeah.
So I think that that's an issue. That's a real issue. It's always easier to see what this other person is doing versus to take an honest look at themselves. And for me,
Yeah.
I look at myself and my flaws and how much I fall short.
Yeah.
And because I know that, it's harder for me to look at. I mean, I have my times where I can see, this person did this wrong, but I just know myself and how much I fall short. And so
Yeah.
that helps me to
Yeah.
be able to forgive other people.
Yeah. Definitely. I think yeah, but when it's one sided, that's what makes it even harder. It's like you don't want to take accountability for actions or what you said or how you said it or what you did, and I think people just need to acknowledge. I think that's a first step to help people um to forgive, because if a
Mhm,
person acknowledges, yeah, I did this wrong. Maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. Maybe I shouldn't have did it that way, and I apologize for that. Just acknowledging the fact um that I did. And, even
mhm,
consider the pain or, how it made you feel. And I think, how the saying is, you never forget a person how, not what they say, but how they made you feel.
mhm.
And that registered to me because it's like, words, it can cut deep, you
Yeah.
know? And
Ooh,
it's,
cause ooh,
no, go ahead.
I was so hurt when like that friendship ended. I was like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh, what did I do? And I just thought about, like, there were some things that person did that was not right, and they never wanted to hold themselves accountable for
yeah,
those things. And people can just think they're so perfect, but
yeah, yeah,
and nobody's perfect. We all have our shortcomings, and
absolutely.
it's just a matter of identifying. So
Yeah,
this issue I have with this person, is it worth more than my relationship with this person?
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think sometimes we get so focused on we want to be the one that's in the right,
yeah, yeah,
and that supersedes the value of the relationship to us. And that's just so unfortunate
yeah. It
because,
is.
one part of being in relationship with people, we're going to always have disagreements,
Yeah,
whether
yeah,
it's like, it could be a sibling,
yeah,
a
yeah.
coworker, not so much a neighbor because neighbors we don't really get too involved in stuff. But
Yeah,
we're when we're like close to people, there's going to be something
yeah,
that happens, and it's like when that issue comes up, it can help us to strengthen our relationship.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah, but being to be honest, the hardest part for forgiveness for me, is just forgiving myself for things. I
Yeah,
think that could be a really hard thing. We talked about self love
yeah,
on the
yeah,
podcast that you were on.
yeah,
But I think the greatest act of self love is to forgive ourselves for
yeah,
the things that we have done.
yeah,
Um, that could be a really difficult process.
yeah, definitely. I think knowingly and unknowingly,
Hmm.
because sometimes we don't subconsciously, we really don't know what we're doing and how
Right.
we affect people, places, and things. And
Hmm.
I think a lot of times when we don't forgive ourselves, then that's when the guilt and excessive, you know, worrying, guilt, shame, then
Hmm.
that's when it comes into place, because like we're not, you know, identifying what are we what our behavior and also what we're doing as far as forgiving ourselves for allowing things to happen too,
Hmm.
and we put ourselves in, and I'm guilty of that too, and I wrote a whole letter to myself saying I'm sorry, for allowing certain things, certain people, places, and things to allow to distract me and filtrate my life and to um, rattle the fence, and I think that was my honest moment with myself, like even with the self-love. And, I apologize for not loving myself. I
Mm-hmm.
apologize for not loving myself how I expect other people to love me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's the most vulnerable moment for me, not not loving myself enough. Like how I should. And it's a work in progress. I'm not perfect. But I'm striving
Right.
to get to some type of plateau. But yeah, allowing like actually, I had to literally admit that to myself. I don't really love myself how what I think I do. Because love
Right.
is an action word, and I'm saying I love myself, but then I keep allowing stuff to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
okay, Shakia, like, okay, you love yourself, then why you allow this to happen? Or why you let this person do that? Or
True.
why are you feeling this way? So it's like, it's like a forgiving myself daily and asking God to help me,
Mm-hmm.
forgive myself for certain things, and certain behaviors that, you don't want people to know about, those hidden hurts,
Right.
and a lot of people don't want to talk about that part, you can let that fester within you, and then you'll feel a certain type of way about yourself and not love yourself, or not even forgiving yourself in any type of facet. You'll forget other people, but you.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Forgiving other people, but not yourself.
yeah, it's a thing.
Ooh.
It's a whole thing, and then you become
And
toxic to yourself.
yeah, and that is true because I hear people say it's easier to show grace to other people
Yeah,
than they do to themselves. And that's one thing I try to talk to my clients about who have self esteem issues.
yeah,
And I do this myself, being the type of friend to myself that I would be to someone else and a
yeah,
good friend.
yeah,
So if
absolutely.
somebody is if I have a friend who's having a hard time, I'm not going to put that person down and be critical of them. I'm going to be empathetic, listen, and just try to encourage them.
Yeah,
And there's that song, sometimes we have to encourage ourselves. But
yeah,
I say every day we have to encourage ourselves because there's always something that's coming our way. We have to be
yeah,
prepared to handle those things.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yes, so that's great that you're able to write yourself a letter to apologize for those past things that have
yeah,
happened. And so one thing for me is just like when I was really young, the things that I did because I knew the kind of person that I was raised to be, and I found myself making some decisions in life that were just, I don't like to use this word crazy, but they were crazy.
okay.
I just did some things I should not have done.
Yeah, yeah,
And, I
yeah,
didn't really want to talk about those things. But then when I have relatives who are kind of in that same age range who are doing some things, I'm like, what are you doing with your life?
yeah,
And they were at that same point that I was. Although I was doing great in certain areas, there were certain things I struggled in. So that's just part of growing up, being like a young adult. Sometimes we're going to make decisions that are not the best. I don't recommend it. You can have the best parents, but sometimes people just do things they
yeah,
shouldn't do. And
yeah,
I don't like to use this as an excuse, but as I have learned more about the brain and like the neuroscience of the brain, we have
yeah,
this frontal lobe that does not get developed until we turn like 25 years of age. And that's when people tend to start making more mature decisions.
yeah,
So that's why you see a lot of people who are young make all these foolish decisions. Um, but I just look at those things that I've done that maybe were not the best. I could take this and help somebody else
yeah,
because sometimes things that we go through can teach somebody else. It can prevent them from making those same decisions. Not everybody wants to listen, unfortunately, but
yeah,
there's someone who does. So just being able to use that thing to help them. And so, like, when we have that unforgiveness, towards ourselves and others, like, I have this bag, this gold bag is empty. My nails aren't polished, so you all bear with me. So, we got this gold bag, right? And we put all these things inside this bag. So,
Hmm.
all our issues, our hurt,
Yeah.
pain, trauma, they all get into this bag.
Yeah.
So this bag is like our heart. We got all these things in our heart,
Yeah.
and we're like connecting with people. So we're putting all this stuff in there. You see how heavy this
Yeah.
bag looks?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it even got some stuff falling out. So
Oh
we get
Lord.
into like relationships with people, and
Yeah.
we got all this baggage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's a
so
good
people are
illustration.
nice to us,
Yep.
they're kind,
Yep.
and we got all this stuff coming out this bag. We might even have something that might, actually
Yeah.
stick somebody. So people
Yeah.
being nice,
Yeah.
they don't know anything about our past, but we got all this unforgiveness, hurt, and pain,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it ends
Yeah.
up hurting other people.
Yeah.
Like that whole saying, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to practice forgiveness. So take the time to,
Yeah.
go to therapy,
Yeah.
pray,
Yeah.
read the Bible,
Yeah.
meditate on God's word is going to help us to undo these things, journaling.
Yeah.
All of that helps us to heal
Yeah.
because God doesn't want us going around with all that stuff in
Yeah.
our heart.
Yep.
He wants us to be light. So
Yep.
we might we might still have a little some there from the
Yeah.
past, but not all
Yeah.
that baggage.
Yeah. That was
So
a
that's
lot.
why
Unpack that bag, ma'am. No, that's a good illustration. That's a really, really good
yeah.
illustration. That's exactly what that is. And so when you still have your bags packed, you can't really operate and function in forgiveness because you got that other stuff that's clouding your
hmm
decisions.
Yeah, have all that anxiety,
Yeah,
paranoia.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
big thing. When we're unforgiving, it can make us really paranoid. We're just
yep,
really hyper vigilant, just ready for somebody to do something. People are like, what in the world?
yeah.
What's wrong with her? I just
Right.
asked her a question and she's attacking me. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely suspicious about everything and everybody. You know,
yeah.
but yeah, it's really a thing. So what would you tell people that are hurting, hurting from, you're kind of like waiting on, sometimes some people are just waiting on an apology, right?
Mhm.
And then they can be able to forgive. So what are you saying, what would you recommend or say to people that are hurting and, having a hard time struggling to forgive people, places, and things, right? Where they hurt, even past, traumas or,
Mhm.
experiences, whether with family, relationships, and they're still hurting. Because a lot of,
Mhm.
like I said before, a lot of people are they holding on for dear life. I
Mhm.
don't want to let this go.
Yeah. So, one thing I would like to tell people, those people who hurt you, their behavior was more about them
Mm,
than it was about you. And
mm-hmm.
I don't think we realize that when we're interacting with people. So
Yeah,
just really, think about that for a moment.
yeah,
A lot of people who hurt others, they have their own issues they have
yeah,
not dealt with. And
yeah,
that is just their own way of coping. As I'm talking with clients, we call those like maladaptive coping skills. And just because a person is a certain age does not mean that that person is mature.
yeah,
Some people are like, they could be in their 50s or 80s.
yeah,
Well, I'm not going to say 80s because when it comes to 80s, they might have something else going on. They could be in their 40s or 50s acting like a teenager because that
yeah,
person has some childhood trauma
yeah,
that's unresolved and it just has them stuck in a certain developmental mindset. So again, that person's behavior is
yeah,
more about them than it is about you. Okay, so that's one thing. I just like to say, tell God about your pain. Let him know.
mm-hmm.
It will not catch him off guard. He will not dismiss you because you're hurting. Let him know that you're hurting. Talk to him about it. Meditate on scriptures. I wish I had one right now that I could tell you all to meditate on. I would say, okay, so I'm gonna go to Psalm 3.
Okay.
That's one that came up for me.
Okay.
So go to
Okay.
Psalm 3. So meditate on scripture. That's one thing. And I really like the Psalms because a lot of people that wrote those books, they were going through things and they
Listen.
spoke to the Lord in the midst of that, and God
Yeah.
met them there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to actually read this. So I'll read
Okay.
the message translation.
All right.
All
That's
right. All right. So it says, God, look, enemies past counting, enemies sprouting like mushrooms, mobs of them all around me, roaring their mockery. Ha! No help for him from God. But you, God, shield me on all sides. You
yeah.
ground my feet. You lift my head high. With all my might, I shout up to God. His answer thunder. His answers thunder from the holy mountain. I stretch out. I stretch myself out. I
Yeah.
sleep. Then I'm up again, rested, tall and steady, fearless before the mob coming at me from all sides. Up, God, my God, help me. Slap their faces. David was like, slap their faces, Lord.
Yep.
First this cheek, then the other. Your fist hard in their teeth. Real help comes from God. Your blessing clothes your people. Now, y'all, I'm not telling y'all to go say, God, slap their faces, but say, Lord, help me. They hurt my feelings. Help them, Lord. Help them to see their sin. Ask the Lord to help people to see their sin, help them to see the error of their heart and correct it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't I don't condemn
Slap
asking the
him
Lord
like
to
a
slap
weed.
folks, but there's some people who believe that that's between them and the Lord. But just be honest with God about what you're dealing with, and just
Yeah.
take it daily, a step at a time. Know that when you choose to forgive other people,
Yeah.
it's going to benefit you more than the other person. Like
Right.
it's going to help you to grow in who you are as a person. So those are my things. Yeah. Also journaling, that's
Yeah.
something, just
Yeah.
writing about those things that come up. And I even recommend writing out prayers. So yeah,
Yeah.
Shakia has a beautiful journal. So
Yeah.
writing out those prayers to God, like I was
Yeah.
doing that for years,
Yeah.
and I didn't know that that was actually something good to be doing. I was just focusing, writing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was just releasing my heart to
Yeah.
God. That's something to do daily.
Yeah.
Okay. I would not, I'm a mental health professional. Go and seek therapy. It is
Yeah.
okay to seek a therapist.
Yeah.
A great place to locate one is Psychology Today.
Yeah.
If you're a Black female, therapy for Black girls. But go look for a therapist,
Yeah.
and they can help you to work through those issues with unforgiveness.
Yeah.
So those would be things that I would recommend.
Yeah. And also, you know what? Kind of like realizing, why the person is in your life, right? Like you
Mhm.
have to evaluate that. And if the person you're forgiving um is going to continue to be in your life, also set boundaries. And okay,
Right.
this is what, having an honest conversation and remind yourself why you want this person to be in your life.
That's
And
true.
acknowledge,
That's a
and weigh
good
out
point.
the pros and cons. Now, some stuff won't be resolved, right? But we
Mhm.
had these kind of conversations and say, hey, I love you, but however, I just feel as though yada yada yada, we, maybe we need to go our separate ways. And that's okay
Mhm.
too. And everybody
Right.
can be cordial, they don't have to be any type of beef or animosity, but it's also it always, level off on people's maturity level,
Right.
right? Forgiving, um
I want to add
go
something
ahead. No,
to
go
what you
ahead.
said.
Yeah,
So that I think that is a very important point when it comes to forgiveness. Ask yourself, is this someone who I really want to have in my life?
yeah,
That's important.
yeah.
Now, just being honest with yourself about that. Is this like a one-time thing with this person, or is this a repeated
Eat it.
pattern of behaviors with that person? If this
Yeah,
is like a repeated pattern of behaviors with this person, they're always doing this, deciding, is this somebody that I really want to be in relationship with?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes we have people in our life, but Dia said this, and I think it's just so true. You have people in our life who come in for a season,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some come in for a reason, and some are coming for a lifetime. So we have to be really sure about why is this person in our life. And then people can also come into our life as a distraction.
Yeah,
That could be their reason to be a distraction. So
that's
just
a
being,
whole
really,
situation.
praying to God about that,
Ooh,
because
don't start
that
now.
unforgiveness could, that mean those issues that you're having is because the enemy is trying to distract you through this person. So just being clear about that too.
Yeah. Ask for
So
discernment. Yeah.
yeah, ask for discernment. That's the word. So I
Yeah.
think that's important. And like you said, too, setting boundaries with that person.
Yeah.
So if it's
Yeah.
somebody you really want to be in relationship with,
Yeah.
if we're going to be friends, there are certain expectations for how we're going to have this relationship. Because I've had people in my life who I'm close friends with who've done things. Well, they weren't like just that horrible, but
Yeah.
not those who are in my life at this point. But
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
this is just a minor thing, because people go through different seasons,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
they have different priorities. So because their priorities are changing, their interaction with me might change. So just being able to understand that um, has helped me.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah, definitely. Antonio said therapy definitely helped me to forgive myself for things I have done and for people that hurt me. Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, it's a whole thing,
Mhm.
and that's why we have these conversations because it's a lot of people that's out here struggling with forgiveness and holding on to things that really not saying that it doesn't matter, but it shouldn't hold as much weight like that, because when you like hold grudges and stuff like that, it like it does something to the body, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, girl, let me tell you about that right there. Let me tell you. And I was going to tell this story too. I forgot to tell you about this. Y'all, I got excited. This happened. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to, because I don't want to like talk about the person. So I'm going to try to be real discreet with this.
Okay.
I was walking out the building one day with somebody, and I did not realize I knew there was a stair, but this
Hmm.
day, like we were having this conversation, and I just was so into what we were talking about, I forgot for a moment there was a stair, and I ended up falling on like the concrete, and my ankle was like hurting. We walked somewhere to have lunch, and my ankle was still hurting. We walked back to have from the lunch, and I was like, man, my ankle hurts. And this person had forgot that I fell. And so like a week went by, and this person, they were on a trip, and somebody had an injury while they were gone. They were just so concerned about this person, but they were acting like my pain wasn't anything. So I end up being disconnected through my connection with this person. And like anytime I would think about that person, do you know what would happen? My ankle started hurting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for
My
real.
ankle started hurting, and I had
Yeah.
some unforgiveness. And
Yeah.
I was like, Lord,
Yeah.
please help me to forgive this person.
Yeah.
My ankle is hurting. But I just had to keep asking him to help me to
Yeah.
forgive them. And that pain in my ankle ended up going away. And I had actually went to a store, and I saw this person's car. I was like, oh my gosh, they're in this store I'm going into. I do not want to see this person. I don't want to see them. Who did I see when I went into the store? Okay, I'm
Listen.
going over here. I'm not going to interact with them.
Yeah.
Who's
Yeah.
behind me? Okay, I was like, hey, how you doing? Just kept going. Not that I
Yeah.
was being fake,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Lord really helped me to be released of that person.
Yeah.
And I ended up seeing them like a few months after that. And I was able to be cordial with that person. They didn't hurt me because of the fall. It was
Yeah.
something else, like a different situation. I just didn't like
Played
how it
out.
went down. But
Yeah.
I really had to ask the Lord to help me with that situation. Do I want to work with that person in the future? Absolutely
Absolutely
not.
not.
But do I want the best for that person? I do.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I kid you not, the last day I was working with that person, I told them I have asked the Lord to bless you in your business. I
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah.
Like, we don't talk about blessing our enemies sometimes. Anyway, that's a different thing. But that's just really,
Listen. Yeah.
I said that, but I still had some bitterness after the fact. But the Lord really had to work on my heart. But yes, that is so right. That
Mhm.
joint pain was connected to my unforgiveness. And I actually
Yeah.
have this book in my room. I think it's by John Eckert. He
Okay.
talks about unforgiveness. And really, I was doing some research before we had this talk today. And like a lot of the ailments that we have in our body, it can
Hmm.
be traced back to some level of unforgiveness, like
Yeah.
arthritis,
Yeah.
headaches, a
Yeah.
lot of stuff,
Yeah.
cancer sometimes.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about that.
Yeah. And we be
So,
stressing ourselves out, over
mhm,
what somebody done did, and the person that did it, they going about their way, and
right.
they not really thinking about it, but we let it sit,
Hmm.
and then it become toxic, and then it kind of like it definitely affects the body, the mind
It
and the
does.
body. And so,
Right.
today we're just asking people to forgive people, show send grace,
Mhm.
right? And, show compassion, because, and not forgiving somebody, sometimes it ain't no sometimes it'll stop, sometimes it stops our blessings, you
It
know,
does.
of what God wants us to, do, and especially on our spiritual journey, our
Mhm.
spiritual path, because you know sometimes God has a funny way of bringing these people back in your life just to test to see if you over it. You did you forgive for real?
That's true.
And your interaction with the people, you be like, oh, I
And let
don't
me
know.
tell you, like this lady I saw, I hope she don't hear this, but I saw her and I was like, her earring is missing. And if I was like low down, I could have said, oh, her earring is missing. Just come on my way. I was like, hey, your earring is missing. And she was like, oh, thank you. I don't know where it is. So it's just like a small thing like that, because I could have been real ugly and petty, but so it's like those things like that. And again, I don't wish anything bad on that person.
Yeah,
I have people in my life who have not forgiven me for some stuff.
yeah.
And I actually was, because we're in this Bible study for my church. It's like so deep. It's called the
Mhm.
J curve. And
Okay.
it's looking at our life and how we do things from like Jesus' perspective.
Mhm.
And so after we had this one lesson, I found myself, I think it was the next day, I started writing like an apology letter to somebody.
Mhm.
I actually typed it on my phone, but I have not, I'm just being honest, I have not sent it to that person yet, because I'm
Yeah.
really concerned if they're going to even acknowledge my letter.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. And I actually apologized to somebody. I think it's important on both ends. It's important that we forgive people, and it's important that we also accept responsibility for our actions
Yeah.
and apologize.
Yeah. But you know
So
what? Some people
forgiveness,
don't. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but some people they don't apologize. They be like,
right?
"Oh, okay, yeah," and like
Hmm.
kind of like deflect, and it really make you mad, because it's like you're not gonna say sorry when you know you was in the wrong,
Right,
and
but
it
people don't
makes you
think that.
feel right. But
Mhm,
and I think like again I said it's the level of maturity too, because
mhm,
you're not gonna say, "Okay, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that." I think
right.
it kind of like kills people on the inside to say I'm sorry
It
too.
does, cause
In
like
that
when I,
pride.
mhm, cause
Yeah,
like with my that person I was talking about that I had the falling out with,
yeah,
I sent them like, cause I had one day I was thinking about them, so I just sent an apology letter, and I think I sent another like a Christmas card or something, but that person, they were just like, everything is okay. It did not mean that we were going to restore our
right,
friendship, but
right,
I was able to acknowledge, hey, I was in the wrong. I think when it came to certain things, you were, a good friend to me, and I
yeah,
appreciate you for that. But there were
yeah,
some other things that were not a good friend. But I didn't bring up any of that stuff. It's like, what point is it? It's not no point. But then there are people in, my life who I feel like I should apologize to. Like, so I'm just like, I don't know if I even want to give them this letter. It's like, if I do, what? But then it's like forgiveness is for you.
Yeah.
So is apologizing.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
apologize, you're honest, and you're sincere about that, and
Yeah.
a person doesn't choose to accept it, that's on them because you've
Yeah.
done your part, like you said. Because it
Yeah.
does take a lot of. It took me a lot of courage to write that person a letter and say, "Hey, this is. I'm sorry it happened like that."
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole thing, and I'm so glad that um we are talking about this because people need to hear that. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
and let everybody know that they're human, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
prone to do something.
Yep.
However, you know, we aware of it, and take full responsibility and accountability for our actions and actually, go to the person or actually say, okay, my bad. I shouldn't have did this. I shouldn't have did that. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and to actually make a conscious decision to actually, forgive a person or a person forgiving you. And
Right.
so, um, I think it's a thing. It should be a thing, and I think it should be, talked about more because a lot of people are hurt because someone didn't say I'm sorry, and
That's
so
true.
and a lot of people's attitudes and how they conduct us. Oh, I'm just this way. This how. No, I don't think so. Something happened for you to be
Mm-hmm.
this way.
That's
A lot of
true.
evil people, a lot of mean. Oof,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of junkyard dog mean people,
Ooh,
you know.
not junkyard dog. Ooh,
Them junkyard dogs be mean
junkyard.
as
She
I don't know
said
what.
junkyard. Ooh,
Them you listen, go to the junkyard or the car lots. Them dogs be mean as ever,
they
right?
do.
They
They
be
are.
mean. Like a lot of people are mean and bitter because of somebody didn't apologize,
You
or
right.
they not forgiving somebody. So it's like, to this day, like whoever that's dealing with, forgiveness and forgiving people, y'all forgive these people. Forgive them, extend grace, right? Ask
Mm-hmm.
God to, harden the heart, your heart, you
Right.
know. Don't be walking around here like Pharaoh, his heart was hardened.
Yes.
You don't want
Yes.
that because it
Mhm.
becomes, you become toxic to yourself and toxic to other people. And I know like that word is like thrown around a lot, but
Just
unhealthy.
unhealthy.
Yeah,
Unhealthy.
yeah, we're gonna say unhealthy. Stop being unhealthy. Get healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And forgive people. Extend grace, set boundaries, and forgive people.
Right.
And
And
it's
just
okay.
know, you know, again, people's behavior is more about them. This is
Yeah,
how they have been functioning all this time.
yeah. They don't
Not
know that.
everybody has this thing called self awareness.
Yeah,
They don't have that. So
yeah,
that's like so important is to have that internal, idea of who you are
yeah,
and that external of who I am interacts with other people.
yeah,
What are some ways that I interact with others that are maybe not the best? Not
yeah,
everybody has that awareness
yeah.
and they just
They
keep
don't.
on doing stuff. So you could probably be that person who
Yeah,
might help them to say, hey, look at this mirror. I'm seeing these things about you. And if you keep on doing this, you're not going to have nobody. So some
yeah,
people need that person
yeah,
to be that for them. So maybe, you could be that person to have that hard conversation to help somebody. Because we're talking about Valentine's Day and
yeah,
forgiveness can be the best gift of love.
yeah. It is. I believe that. Yeah, it is because it's like you something went missing, right? Something
Mhm.
went. It was a disconnect, and I
Right.
feel as though when we love ourselves, right? We love ourselves the way God loves us, then it wouldn't be a problem. I think it wouldn't be so hard to not forgive people,
That's
right?
true.
I really think, and we're work in progress, and even me, like I forgive people and I let it go. I'm like, okay, next, okay, whatever. I go on to the next because I'm not dwelling on that, right?
Yeah.
And because I love you and who you are to me, I love you enough to be like, okay, maybe you had something going on and I was the target, right? And
Right.
I'm okay with that. Okay, okay, yes, I'm a therapist. I don't have to take and tolerate. However, because of who you are to me, I love you enough to be like, okay, next, keep brushing it. but we're gonna address it. But I still love you, and I want you to be a part of my life. So
Right.
we're gonna keep rolling with the punches because, like I tell my clients, every day is not gonna be roses and sunshine and glitter and gold and here come the fairy godmother coming out. It's not gonna always be like that. And
That's true.
so I always paint that picture to them like, hey, it won't always be like this. However, you got to love yourself enough to love other people. And sometimes it can be a
Ooh.
hard thing to
Ooh.
do.
You
Listen,
said
I've been
something
working on
else. Ooh.
I've been
You
working on myself.
you said something else. I think sometimes we try to do the opposite. We try to love other people in order to love ourselves.
Yeah,
And I think that kind of comes back because, Christianity says, you love God,
yeah,
then you love other people. But if you don't have an understanding of who you are and
yeah,
how God made you, it's
yeah,
hard to love other people. So I think it's important
yeah,
to do that, to let Him, just really remember how much God loves you. So, like, I'm single, and I can remember when I was in
me too.
I'm being real vulnerable right now. Like when I was in middle school, I had this one crush, and I had just got my hair done like the day before, and I was like, I think I was at the hair salon for like 4 hours. I was like, yeah. So I was writing this letter. I spent 4 hours at the hair salon to get my hair done. I'm like, I'm 13 years old, writing like this. Spent 4 hours at the hair salon getting my hair done. I have a crush on you. Do you like me? And you know how when we were in middle school, we would write those letters to the boy, do you like me? Yes or no?
Yes or no? Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I was like, I wonder what my letter would say if I were to ask Jesus, do you love me? Do you
yeah,
like me?
yeah,
If I just were to ask him, do you love me? He says, yes.
yeah,
I love you with an everlasting love
yeah,
and an everlasting kindness.
yeah,
Nothing can separate
yeah.
you from my love.
Right.
So I
Yeah,
don't think we really take enough time to really just know how much God loves us.
yeah,
Like we're looking
yeah,
for God's love in people, and
yeah.
sometimes
Oh,
it's rare. You might find that person that can show you God's love, but it's very rare because a lot of people are broken
yeah,
themselves. But
yeah,
just really
definitely.
taking the time to meditate on God's love and how much He loves you, it's just so important because when you do that, you understand how much He loves you. I think it's easier.
Yeah,
Doesn't make it. I mean, it does make it easier to deal with people and their
yeah,
brokenness, their issues.
yeah.
So,
Absolutely. I put a Facebook post. It was last Sunday. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking or whatever, but I was like in this mode, and I was thinking. I was saying. I said on my post like, one person I never have to question that loves me, and that's God. I
mhm.
like hands down, 10 toes down, other than my mom always, my
Right,
parents,
mine
they
too.
love me. But other than right, and my people, they love me, but
Right,
I don't question their love either. But I'm talking about like 10 toes down. I never have to question God's love for me
right.
because He sent His Son, Jesus, to
Mhm.
die on the cross and to carry the sins of the world on the shoulder. If that's not love, I don't know what is, right? And
That
so
is
when I
true.
wrote it, I was like, "Oh, that was good, Shakia." Like in my mind, like in my head, I'm like, I never have to question God's
That's
love.
true.
I
We don't.
never, never, ever, ever. I never.
Mhm.
We can question people's love because some people are conditional. They love on condition,
Right.
you know, versus God's love is unconditional.
Mhm.
Unconditional love, like your parents or things like that. But God's love is like you said, endless,
That's true.
timeless, all of
Mhm.
the above. So it's like, man, like just having the love of God, loving and having a love for people. And I think as therapists, I think we do have a heart for people. We
We
do
do.
want to see people transform and their mind shifts and, look up, right? And have a new beginning on life and how their perspective of life. And they're not defined by their situation, diagnosis, their medication. They're not defined
Mhm.
by that. However, to keep going. Like I always
Right.
illustrate with my clients again, like they're the train. I'm just the person on the back of the train putting
Ooh.
that coal in there.
Ooh. Ooh. That is good.
Listen, I be in my mode. I be like, and they be looking at me like,
What?
oh, okay. You know that person in the back, you still going. And here I am
Mhm.
on the back of the train, got the shovel and trying to, I'm putting the code to see, make sure you still running and
That's true.
productive. And so they like, okay. And so that's how I get them comfortable enough. Like, hey, G, you ain't by yourself. Like you're not in this thing by like it's a thing. You
Hmm.
struggle, I struggle, everybody struggle. So
Right.
don't think that you're by yourself. And so when I say that, then they like, oh,
Hmm.
okay, all right. So yeah, so you know, it's a thing. And in forgiveness, it's for yourself, it's for other people, and everything that's connected to you. Because when you forgive, like a lot of things start to open up into you see the road a little bit clearer. The dust has settled. And
Right.
so, yeah, yeah, just having an intelligent conversation about forgiveness and forgiving other people and things like that. So, yeah,
Hmm.
it's a thing. It's a
It is.
whole thing. Yeah,
It's important.
yeah, definitely important. Any last words for us? Any last words for us?
I guess one thing I just want to emphasize again is when in relationships, remember that people's behavior is more about them and who they are than it is about you. Forgiveness is a choice, and when you forgive, there's so many benefits to it. So if there is somebody today who you need to forgive, just write a letter
Yeah,
and
yeah,
pray. And
yeah,
if you need to send that letter out, choose to do so and be okay with getting that apology that you never get.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, 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 definitely. Like that was good. This is good today. It felt good today to talk about
Thank
it
you.
and converse. And thank you so much for being a blessing and using your voice and all that good stuff to talk about forgiveness with me
You're
on this
welcome.
podcast. Yeah, yeah, it
You're
was good.
welcome. Thank you
It
for
was good.
allowing me to be here. I've enjoyed having this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I want everybody to tune in. Well, next week I won't be on. I'm going to be Sis Breakfast Club Black Friday. I'm gonna be a vendor, so I'm gonna be selling tea, and so make sure y'all look at the flyer what I post on social media. So I won't be for next Sunday, but the Sunday after next, I will definitely be posting a flyer soon. So I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning in, for giving us your hearts and in your ears. Greatly, greatly appreciating if you're doing it, listening to the replay. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And make sure you like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. So I'll see you guys on at the end of the month. At the end of the month, I'll see you guys. See you
Bye.
guys. Bye.